Well, hi everyone, my name is Toby and welcome to the power of a Goby. Today I want to answer some of your questions about what exactly you do and who you are. Well, Goby Ministries is a group of people who are committed to changing the conversation around the message of mental wellness, especially among people who feel less than because they're battling anxiety, depression, or generally feeling overwhelmed by life. I know what that battle is like. For 26 plus years, I've battled an anxiety and panic disorder. I know what it's like to not sleep all night with your heart about to beat out of your chest. I know what it's like to take a couple of steps forward and then feel like you take a couple of steps back. I know what it's like to feel hopeless and helpless. And I know what it's like to be free. I know what it's like to be connected to a power that is greater than myself and being able to not just survive, but thrive in spite of these battles from time to time with anxiety and depression. And people ask me from time to time, why should I care about what you're doing? Well, because the stats play it out. Looking around you, more people than not are battling at some level with some kind of mental wellness issue. It's not that, we never heard about that 20 years ago. It's like we finally found a language for it in today's world. And if we're not careful, we're going to let some of these diagnoses and terms build our identity, and we'll become victims instead of becoming victors. And one of the things that we want to do here at Goby is help you understand that you are not what you battle. There is more to you than the battles that you face, and the days that you're winning, and the days that you feel like losing. Many of us in my generation grew up in the don't be a baby generation. Just rub some dirt on it. Just get over it. And lots of you have church backgrounds where in a spiritual way, you've heard that if you just pray harder, if you just had more faith, if you just did things differently, you wouldn't battle these issues. And that in and of itself is dangerous. But let me tell you what else is dangerous. It's we've swung to this extreme, reacting against don't be a baby, and now we're saying, you poor baby. You don't need to do that because you have this condition. You don't need to work on this because of this challenge or trauma in your life. And so Goby was created to say this, hey man, life is hard, but you can do hard things because God is with you. That's what I've discovered over the past 26 plus years of my life, is that life is hard, but I can do hard things because God is with me. When I wrote my first book and released it in January of 2020, it was a book for adults. It was called Not Yet. And it was a book that was designed to take what's happened to me over the past quarter century of my life and the lessons I've learned about battling anxiety and depression and give some truths to help someone else. The struggle I was having was finishing the book. Kept wanting to talk about a salmon fish, but it just seemed kind of cliche. Everyone knew about the salmon fish. So I Googled one day, what's another fish like a salmon? And I read about a Goby fish, Goby. This particular species is found off the Big Island in Hawaii, and it's unique for a couple of reasons. It begins its life in the ocean water, and then when the tide is just right, in its maturation process, it swims upstream, up these waterfalls, and it swims and lives the second half of its life in the non-oceanic water, the fresh water at the top of these mountains. What a dumb word, non-oceanic. In the fresh water at the top of these mountains. The cool part about it is, as it swims, scientists have taken pictures, its bottom jaw gets longer. Why? So it can grab onto the rocks and get to the top. And when I first read about it, it kind of took my breath away because I realized that the very thing I had been running from was the very thing God was using to transform my life. It's the message of the Goby. And so I went back to Google and I put in, how do you draw fish? And for 6 hours I sat there tracing this little picture of a cartoon fish, and I stood in front of a large group and I told the story of the Goby fish. I named him Toby because my name is Toby, and the little book, Toby the Goby, was born. My daughter-in-law, who is an incredibly talented, gifted artist, graphic artist, she's gifted too. Her dream since she was a kid had been to illustrate a children's book. She just didn't have a story. So when the pandemic hit, we had some time, and she illustrated the book, and it's taken off. Why? Because the stats, they tell a pretty challenging picture, and the picture is that over 68% of kids between the ages of 5 and I think it's 18 battle at some level anxiety, depression, and feeling overwhelmed with life. And so we wrote Toby the Goby to say this to kids: you can do hard things because God is with you, but you have to keep your eyes on the sun, and you can help others along the way. And this little message began to spread like wildfire. Why? Because it was something people could hang on to. It was something deeper and richer than fidget spinners and weighted blankets. And so we began to build tools. I had one ask me, well, where have these tools been tested? They've been tested in my own life for 25 years. And we began to distribute tools to people, practices, if you will, for people to begin to use when they were feeling anxious or depressed. We have referred hundreds to professional counselors, but there are so many of our kids that if we just begin to build a rhythm into their life using these tools of understanding that we can do hard things. And here's how we're going to do them together. I think the future could be bright. So our goal is to take this message literally around the world. We've just launched in Spanish. We have plans to launch in Hindi. We have other places around the world that we're in contact with that are desiring these kind of tools. This isn't an American problem. This is a human problem. We're seeing it happen all over the world. And so my dream, my hope, is that people could find out that freedom isn't simply the absence of these issues in their lives, but it is connecting to a power greater than yourself and building an overcoming spirit. You're not a victim. You're a victor. Your struggle does not identify you. Only the one who created you has the right to identify you. Life is hard, but you can do hard things. And I'm hoping to build a community that is committed to helping people along the way. I think the most excited I have been on this Goby journey that we've been on now for about a year has been watching people in the midst of their struggle being willing to help others, and their journey has been enhanced. And for many of them, it's gone much more quickly because instead of focusing inward on themselves, they're focusing on helping others, and God's helping them in ways they could never imagine. So thanks so much for taking a moment to hear our story. Thank you so much for being willing to join a movement that is committed to helping people be seen, be known, and be loved. Let's be a Goby.